The galaxy had always been full of danger, but no one had ever seen anything like the Vora Dominion's Armada. Their ships appeared without warning, rising from the dark side of a dying star like shadows made of metal. Every ship was massive, shaped like long knives, glowing with red energy that made every other species feel cold fear in their bones. When the Armada entered a star system, the light from the sun disappeared behind their sides. To many watchers across the galaxy, it looked like night had fallen even in the day sky. The first world they attacked was peaceful and small, a place where farmers lived quiet lives. The people there had no armies, no warships, and no idea how to fight back. They only saw the sky turn black and heard their warning system scream in fear. Moments later, the Vora unleashed a beam so bright it looked like a second sun exploding. The planet died in minutes. There were no survivors to tell the story, only silent ashes floating in space. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Stars burned with fear, and stations filled with panic. Refugees ran in every direction, begging for help, sending distress messages to anyone who could hear. But no one had a plan, no one had a weapon, and no one had the courage to stand against the Vora. The Galactic Union called an emergency meeting. Leaders from dozens of worlds gathered inside a huge circular chamber floating above a gas giant. Voices shook as they argued about what to do. Some wanted to surrender, some wanted to hide, and some wanted to abandon their planets. But one message repeated again and again. If this Vora fleet continues, we are all finished. Then someone asked the question nobody wanted to speak aloud. Where is Earth? The room went silent. Earth had been quiet for many years, keeping to itself, preparing something unknown. Rumors said humans were building new technology, strange weapons, maybe even new types of ships. But nobody knew the truth. Some believed Earth had grown weak. Others believed humanity was waiting for the right moment to strike. Meanwhile, far from the meeting, a young alien mechanic sat inside a damaged space station, watching a broadcast replay of the Vora destroying another planet. He felt helpless as he saw families running, cities falling, and an entire world turning to fire. He whispered, "Is there no one left who can fight them?" Across the galaxy, the same question repeated on every world. Is there any hope left? Is there any power strong enough to stop the Vora Dominion? Civilizations that once stood proudly now hid in fear. Whole planets shut down communication systems, tried to avoid being detected. But everyone knew the truth. The Vora always found their prey. Then something strange happened. A faint signal appeared on long-range scanners. It came from the outer rim, from a place empty and quiet for centuries. The signal repeated every 10 seconds, simple and clear. It was not a cry for help, not a warning, not a message of fear. It was something else. A countdown, a pulse of energy rising slowly, like a giant waking from sleep. The Galactic Union did not know what it meant. The refugees did not know what it meant. The Vora commanders ignored it, thinking it was nothing important. But deep inside the dark border of space, something was moving, something old, something powerful, something human. And as the countdown signal reached its final number, the galaxy held its breath, because no one knew that Earth had finally awakened. And Earth was not coming alone. Earth had been silent for many years, and most aliens believed humanity had become weak or tired of war. But deep below the surface of Earth, far under the oceans and mountains, something huge was happening in secret. Massive command rooms glowed with blue light, screens filled with star maps, and thousands of officers moved with sharp focus. Earth was not sleeping. Earth was preparing. Late one night, the alarm systems inside Earth Command suddenly activated. A flood of emergency messages hit the main communication hub, thousands of signals coming from dying planets across the galaxy. The screens flickered with images of burning cities, destroyed moons, and people begging for rescue. The officers froze as the final message played again and again. The Vora are coming. The Vora are coming. Admiral Reyes, the supreme commander of Earth's defense network, stood in silence as he watched these messages. His face was calm, but inside he felt the weight of the entire galaxy falling on his shoulders. He turned to his second-in-command, Commander Holt, a man who had fought in every major space war. Reyes said softly, "It has begun." Holt nodded with a heavy breath. "Yes, sir. The Vora have returned." The room fell silent as Reyes opened the live footage from a destroyed alien world. They watched as the Vora ships, dark, sharp, glowing red, cut through entire cities as if they were made of dust. Children ran, soldiers died, skies turned black, and planets turned silent. Holt clenched his fists. "Sir, they will not stop." Reyes replied, "They never do." For a long moment, the command room was filled only with the sounds of the emergency beacons. Then, one officer slowly turned toward Reyes and asked the question everyone feared. "Do we join the fight?" Reyes looked up at the giant hologram of the galaxy, glowing in the air. Red zones spread across it like a deadly infection. He closed his eyes for a moment and whispered, "Humanity always joins the fight." Earth's hidden fleets began to activate one by one. Gigantic hangars opened beneath the oceans, letting water pour out as massive ships rose from below like steel whales. On Mars, giant doors opened in the red sand, revealing entire fleets hidden for decades. On the Moon, long-dormant weapons hummed with new life. Earth had not just prepared defenses. Earth had built something new, something powerful, something terrifying. As the officers watched the activation logs, Holt asked quietly, "Do we send the first fleet?" Reyes nodded. "Send them." The order echoed through every system, and in minutes, the first human fleet launched into space. Their engines roared like storms, leaving long blue trails behind them. Millions across Earth watched the ships rise through the clouds with hope and fear in their hearts. But as strong as the first fleet was, everyone knew one truth. It was not strong enough to defeat the Vora Dominion alone. Reyes knew that too. Still, he needed to see how humanity stood against the Vora now. When the first fleet jumped into hyperspace, the galaxy fell silent. No one knew what would happen next. Heroes had died fighting the Vora, and countless worlds had been erased. But now humanity was stepping into the battlefield for the first time in centuries. As the Earth fleet approached Vora territory, long-range sensors detected something strange. A massive shadow moving through space, as if the darkness itself was alive. Captain Lyra, leading the first fleet, whispered, "Those are Vora ships." Her voice shook, not with fear, but with rage. The Vora Armada began to turn toward them, slowly, like a giant monster noticing a new enemy. The battlefield was silent. The stars were silent. Even time felt silent. And then Captain Lyra gave the order that would change history. "All ships, prepare for contact." Earth had finally arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The first human fleet drifted into Vora territory like a small spark entering a storm. Their ships were smaller than the Vora war cruisers, but they moved with sharp precision and silent confidence. Every human officer knew the truth. This battle would decide if Earth still had a place in the galaxy, or if humanity would fall like all the others. Captain Lyra stood at the front of her command bridge, her eyes fixed on the giant shadow ahead. The Vora Armada stretched across space like a wall of darkness. Thousands of red lights blinked like the eyes of a giant beast. Her crew whispered nervously, knowing that a single mistake could turn them into dust. The Vora commander, Lord Zorith, watched the small human fleet appear on his screens. He laughed, a deep metallic sound that echoed through his warship. "To challenge us with so few ships, the humans must be desperate." His officers agreed, their claws tapping the consoles with excitement. Zorith sent a message across the battlefield. It was short and cruel. "You are alone, humans. Prepare to be erased." Captain Lyra read the message and smiled coldly. She whispered, "Let them think that. The human ships formed a battle line and activated their shields, their blue glow cutting through the darkness. The Vora ships responded by opening their massive weapon ports. Red energy began to grow inside them, hot and deadly like molten fire. The silence broke when the Vora fired the first shot. A giant beam of red energy streaked across the battlefield, tearing open space itself. Everyone on the human ships braced for impact, but Lyra had already given her order. Evasive maneuver Delta. The human fleet moved as one, shifting formation with perfect timing. The deadly beam missed them by only seconds. The Vora were shocked. No other species had ever dodged their first strike. Lyra raised her hand. Now it's our turn. Human ships unleashed a burst of blue plasma torpedoes, moving faster than anything the Vora had seen before. The torpedoes cut through the Vora shields like knives through paper. 3 massive Vora warships exploded instantly, sending fragments spinning into space. The Galaxy, watching through long-range signals, gasped in disbelief. No one had ever destroyed Vora ships so quickly. No one had ever stood against them with such strength. Zorith roared in anger. Fire everything! Hundreds of Vora cannons lit up, filling the battlefield with deadly red storms. The sky itself looked like it was burning. Human shields shook, sparks burst across decks, alarms screamed. But the First Fleet held strong. Commander Holt monitored the battle from Earth Command, his voice steady but tense. They are strong, but the Vora are stronger. Admiral Reyes stood beside him, eyes locked on the battlefield feed. We will see, he whispered. Back in the battle, Lyra saw a massive Vora dreadnought heading straight toward the human front line. It was bigger than any human ship, glowing with power enough to break a moon. Her officers panicked. Captain, we cannot take a direct hit from that monster. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, then said the words her crew feared. We are not here to win. We are here to show Earth's strength. She transmitted a message to the Vora dreadnought, a message that carried across every screen. We are not alone. Before the Vora could understand, space behind the human fleet cracked open. A huge blue wormhole burst into existence, shaking the stars. Light poured out of it like a new sun being born. The Vora ships paused, confused. Captain Lyra whispered, "They are here." And then shadows began to emerge from the wormhole. Not 1, not 10, but hundreds of human war fleets. Earth had arrived with an army the galaxy had never seen before. The First Fleet was no longer alone. The real war was about to begin. The arrival of 100 human fleets stunned the galaxy. Even the Vora Dominion, known for never showing fear, felt something cold for the first time. The wormhole behind Captain Lyra's ship continued to spill out war fleets like a rising tide of steel. Human battleships, carriers, drones, and Titan-class cruisers filled the dark sky until the stars disappeared. It was a sight no one in the galaxy would ever forget. But the Vora were not finished. Not even close. Lord Zorith stood inside the command tower of his dreadnought, watching the endless human fleets appear. His skin burned with anger. His voice was sharp like broken metal. They dare to challenge the Dominion with numbers, he growled. Then we will show them what true terror is. He raised his clawed hand, and every Vora officer stopped breathing for a moment. This command had never been spoken in centuries. Activate the World Breaker, Zorith said. Silence fell across the fleet. The World Breaker was not a ship. It was a moving nightmare. Far behind the Vora Armada, hidden in darkness, a giant shadow began to rise. Bigger than moons, older than empires, forged from stolen planets. The World Breaker was a fortress the size of a world. Its engines glowed blood red, casting long shadows across the battlefield. Every species watching the battle felt fear twist inside their hearts. Even Captain Lyra felt her breath freeze for a moment. What is that? One of her officers whispered. Lyra stared at the massive fortress. It is the Vora's true weapon, she replied, voice steady but eyes sharp. and they're bringing it for us. Earth Command received the visual feed. Commander Holt's face turned pale. That thing can destroy entire solar systems, he said quietly. Admiral Reyes nodded. And they plan to use it on us. The Vora Armada moved into formation around the Worldbreaker. Their ships glowed brighter, their weapons charged with crimson power. The humans watched as the giant fortress opened its central core. A swirling red storm grew inside it, like a sun being born in anger. Captain Lyra whispered one word. Brace! Zorith raised his hand again. Fire! The Worldbreaker released a beam of red energy, so large it looked like space itself was cracking open. The beam tore through human fleets, ripping apart dozens of ships in seconds. Whole formations vanished in a single flash of light. The battlefield shook as shockwaves spread across nearby stars. The galaxy cried out in horror. Messages poured across communication channels. Earth fleets are falling. The Vora have activated the Worldbreaker. We are doomed. But humanity did not break. Lyra shouted across the Interfleet channel. All ships, defensive formation now. Human cruisers moved quickly, positioning themselves to absorb the blast. Shield networks linked together, forming a giant blue barrier across space. The beam hit the barrier, sending blue sparks across the battlefield. The shields trembled, cracked, screamed with pressure, but held. Barely. Zorith roared in fury as the humans survived the attack. No shields can resist us, he snarled. Fire again. The Worldbreaker began charging its core a second time. But this time, Admiral Reyes had a plan. Back on Earth, Reyes turned to his officers. Activate Protocol Titan. The room went silent. That command had never been used. Ever. Commander Holt hesitated. Sir, once we activate it, there is no turning back. Reyes responded with steel in his voice. If we do nothing, humanity dies. Across the battlefield, a deep vibration shook the wormhole. Lights flickered inside it. Something enormous was coming through. Something darker, heavier, older than any ship in human history. Captain Lyra watched in shock as a shape emerged. A Titan-class command ship, larger than any human vessel ever built. A ship whispered about in secret, believed to be only a myth. The Helios Colossus, Earth's ultimate weapon. As the Colossus fully emerged, the stars grew dim around it. The ship's cannons glowed with blue fire. Its engines roared like a storm. Lyra whispered in awe. Protocol Titan has awakened. The Vora thought they had seen humanity's strength, but they were wrong. The real power of Earth was only beginning to rise. The Helios Colossus stepped out of the wormhole like a giant made of metal and fire. Its hull was dark silver, marked with ancient symbols, and its engines glowed blue like small suns. Every human ship felt a shockwave of energy as the Titan-class vessel entered the battlefield. Even the wormhole flickered with unstable light, as if it struggled to hold such a massive beast. Across the Vora Armada, panic spread like wildfire. Their scanners screamed warnings, unable to measure the Colossus's power. Lord Zorith stared at the new ship with widening eyes. "What is that?" he demanded, his voice trembling with confusion and anger. His officers could only respond quietly. We have never seen a ship of this size from the humans." Back on Earth, Admiral Reyes stood straight inside the command chamber, his face calm, but his eyes sharp like a blade. He whispered to himself, "It is time the galaxy sees who we really are." The Colossus sent its first message across the battlefield. A deep mechanical voice echoed through every speaker. Protocol Titan engaged. Helios Colossus online. The message was simple, but its weight shook every soul watching. Captain Lyra watched the Titan-class ship move forward. She had trained for years, fought wars, survived battles. But she had never seen anything like this. Her crew stood silent, their eyes filled with awe. The Vora reacted first. "Destroy it before it fires," Zorith shouted. Thousands of Vora ships, turned their cannons toward the Colossus. Red beams, missiles, plasma storms, everything fired at once. It looked like an ocean of fire crashing toward the Titan ship, but the Colossus did not move. Its shields glowed gently, almost lazily. The attacks hit the shield and dissolved like dust in sunlight. The human officers gasped. "Sir, the Colossus is not even taking damage," Lyra whispered. "It is unstoppable." The Titan ship finally opened its main weapon port. A long crystal cannon unfolded from its front section, shining with bright blue energy. The entire battlefield went silent for a moment. Every Vora officer froze in fear. Even Zorith felt his heart twist. The Colossus fired. A massive beam of blue energy burst across the battlefield, not as a thin line, but as a wide wave. It moved slowly, like a wall of light sweeping across space. Every Vora ship caught in its path melted instantly. Thousands of ships turned to silent dust, falling like blue snow. The galaxy watched the impossible become reality. The Vora tried to retreat, but human fleets surrounded them. Carriers released fighter swarms. Cruisers opened rail cannons. Drones swarmed like angry stars. The battlefield became a storm of blue fire, metal fragments, and broken enemy formations. But the Vora still had the Worldbreaker. The giant fortress began charging again. Its core glowed dangerously bright. The energy swirl inside it looked bigger than before. Zorith hoped one final attack could break the humans. "Fire on the Colossus," he ordered. The Worldbreaker fired its planet shatter beam. A massive red pillar of destruction shot straight toward the Colossus. Everyone on the human side held their breath. If this attack broke the Titan, the tide of war could change again. But something unexpected happened. The Colossus did not block the attack. It absorbed it. Its hull glowed brighter with every second, drinking the energy like water. The Vora watched in horror as their greatest weapon made the human Titan even stronger. Captain Lyra whispered, "This is no ordinary ship." Her voice trembled with both fear and respect. The Colossus charged its cannon again. This time, it aimed directly at the Worldbreaker. Admiral Reyes spoke through the battlefield channel. "Humanity does not run. Humanity does not bow." The Colossus fired again. The blue beam struck the Worldbreaker's core. Cracks spread across the fortress like lightning. The Vora screamed in fear. For the first time in history, their strongest weapon was breaking. The fortress exploded in a massive, silent flash of blue light. The shockwave pushed ships away, even shaking the stars themselves. Human fleets cheered, but Lyra knew the truth. "This war is not over," she whispered, because the death of the Worldbreaker awakened something far worse in the Vora Dominion. The Overlord, the true leader, the monster behind it all, was coming. The destruction of the Worldbreaker sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, the Vora Dominion had lost something. Not a planet, not a fleet, but their pride. Their fear spread faster than fire. But deep in the darkest corner of their empire, something ancient opened its eyes. The Vora Overlord, the true ruler of their species, awoke from his long slumber. His chamber was carved inside a dead star, glowing red with unstable energy. He rose slowly, covered in armor forged from collapsed neutron metal. His presence alone shook the room. Every Vora officer fell to their knees, trembling. The Overlord's single eye glowed like a dying sun. He spoke only 4 words. "Prepare my flagship." Back at the battlefield, the Helios Colossus held its position. Human fleets circled it like loyal guards surrounding their king. Captain Lyra watched the debris of the Worldbreaker drift silently across the void. Her voice was low. "It is over for now." But in her heart, she knew peace would not last. Inside Earth Command, Admiral Reyes studied the energy readings coming from Vora space. The levels were rising far too fast. Commander Holt walked to him with stiff shoulders. "Sir, something big is moving." Reyes frowned. Bigger than the World Breaker? Holt nodded slowly. Yes, much bigger. Suddenly, every human ship in the battlefield received an alert. A tear appeared in space, like the universe itself was being ripped open. Red lightning burst from it, twisting the stars. Then a shadow emerged. Long, enormous, terrifying. The Vora, Overlord's flagship. A ship as large as a small moon, forged from the remains of fallen worlds. When the flagship fully appeared, its engines howled like thunder. Every ship, human or Vora, fell silent. It was not just a vessel. It was a symbol of absolute domination. The Overlord's voice echoed across every communication channel. You humans have forgotten your place. His voice felt like a crushing weight pressing on every chest. You destroyed my World Breaker. You killed my children. For that, your species will burn. Human officers struggled to keep calm. Some felt their hands shake. Others felt fear rise inside their chests. But Captain Lyra stood tall. She sent a single message to her fleet. Do not fear him. Fear is how the Vora win. The Overlord's flagship began charging a beam so powerful that even the Colossus trembled. Admiral Reyes watched in shock. The energy levels, they are beyond anything in recorded history. Commander Holt whispered, if that beam fires, half this sector will be erased. The Helios Colossus moved forward, placing itself between the flagship and the rest of the human fleets. Its cannons glowed brighter than ever before. But a single Titan ship against the Overlord's flagship was still a dangerous fight. The Overlord fired first. A massive red beam shot across space, tearing through reality. The Colossus raised its shields. Blue and red collided in a storm of light. The shockwave hit every ship, throwing them off course. The shields of the Colossus cracked. Sparks burst across its hull. For the first time, the Titan ship struggled. Captain Lyra shouted, all fleets, move to support the Colossus. Human war fleets surged forward, firing missiles, rail cannons, plasma bursts. The battlefield turned into a storm of blue fire and red fury. But the Overlord did not flinch. His flagship unleashed drones the size of buildings, each armed with deadly energy blades. Human fighters swarmed to counter them. Explosions lit the darkness like fireworks. Bodies of ships drifted across space, burning and broken. The Overlord laughed. You think numbers will save you? He activated a gravitational pulse, pulling dozens of human ships toward his flagship. They twisted, cracked, and exploded under the pressure. Humanity was losing ground. Even with 100 fleets, the Overlord was too strong. Admiral Reyes clenched his fists. If we do nothing, we lose everything. He opened the command channel. All ships, prepare for the final strategy. For the survival of Earth. For the survival of the galaxy. Activate Operation Dawnstrike. Captain Lyra heard the order. Her heart jumped. Dawnstrike, that will destroy us too. But she also knew it was the only way to defeat the Overlord. Humanity had one final chance, one final hope, and the next battle would decide the fate of every living world. The battlefield burned with blue and red light. Human ships drifted damaged and broken. Vora drones sliced through space like metal beasts. At the center of it all, the Vora Overlord's flagship glowed like a dark sun. Its core pulsed with deadly power, ready to end everything. Operation Dawnstrike was humanity's last hope. A secret strategy known only to the highest commanders. A plan so dangerous that it had never been used in any war. Captain Lyra looked at the order on her screen. Her heart felt heavy. She whispered, if this fails, there will be no humans left to try again. The Helios Colossus moved forward slowly, its giant engines burning bright blue. Inside Earth Command, Admiral Reyes stood tall. He knew what was coming. He knew what it would cost. But he also knew that billions of innocent lives across the galaxy depended on humanity's courage. Commander Holt stepped beside him. This operation, it will consume the Colossus. Reyes nodded. Yes, but it will take the Overlord with it. The Vora Overlord sensed the shift in the battle. He leaned forward in his throne of metal and bone. So he growled. The humans choose to die bravely. His flagship charged another gravitational pulse. If fired, it would crush every ship within thousands of kilometers. Captain Lyrith saw energy building inside the Overlord's core. We do not have time, she said sharply. Colossus, begin Dawn Strike sequence. The Titan ship responded with a deep mechanical voice. Dawn Strike initiated. Sections of the Colossus opened, revealing a massive crystal heart glowing with blinding light. Energy threads stretched across its hull like veins of pure electricity. Human fleets formed a defensive ring around the Colossus. Even broken ships moved into position, refusing to fall back. Pilots with damaged fighters flew forward. Commanders shouted orders through smoke and fire. Every human heartbeat with one purpose: protect the Colossus until Dawnstrike reaches full power. The Overlord watched the gathering light with rising anger. Destroy them, he roared. His flagship opened hundreds of weapon ports. Drones charged, beams fired, missiles streaked across the sky. Humanity fought back with everything they had left. Plasma bursts lit up space. Rail cannons boomed. Fighter swarms cut through enemy drones. Ships exploded one after another, but the humans did not retreat. They held the line with everything they had. Inside the Colossus, its core reached maximum charge. The voice of the ship echoed across all channels. Warning, Dawnstrike detonation will result in total system loss. Captain Lyra whispered back. Do it. The Overlord fired his gravitational pulse. The battlefield bent and twisted as if space was breaking apart. Ships were dragged screaming toward the flagship's gravity well. But before the pulse could destroy the Colossus, the Titan ship unleashed Dawnstrike. A massive wave of blue-white energy erupted from the Colossus. The explosion looked like a new star being born. The shockwave collided with the Overlord's gravitational pulse. For a moment, the two forces clashed in a storm of light. Then the Overlord's power shattered. Dawnstrike hit the Vora flagship at full strength. Cracks spread across its hull. The Overlord stood in disbelief as his ship broke apart under the force. His final roar echoed through space. You humans will never be forgotten. Then his flagship exploded in a blinding flash. The shockwave spread across the battlefield, knocking ships away like leaves in a storm. When the light faded, the Overlord was gone. The Vora fleet stopped firing. Their drones fell silent. The Dominion collapsed in seconds. The Helios Colossus drifted quietly, its hull damaged beyond repair. Inside, its systems shut down one by one. Captain Lyra placed her hand on the console, tears shining in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. The Titan ship flickered once, then went dark. Across the galaxy, cheers rose. Worlds that had lived in fear for generations sent messages of celebration. For the first time in ages, the galaxy felt hope. Admiral Reyes closed his eyes. We did it. Humanity saved them all. And so the ancient prophecy came true. One alien armada had made the galaxy tremble, but Earth had arrived with 100 more and changed the universe forever.